to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms, in your own mind, in your own narrative, beloveds, because that is the only way to escape the fall of Babylon. Because, Babylon has created a global system. The New World Order started back in the 50s, beloveds, not now when they're trying to say, 2021 New World Order agenda. This is when they're fully cementing it and unmasking themselves and saying, this is the way the world is going to be. We're going to have perpetual lockdowns. We're going to control you, etc., etc. And we're seeing the very aggressive unfolding of the final Babylon agenda because they know their time is up and they know that we rule next. But those are definitely stories for other days. I get a lot of emails from people concerned about, the welfare of Africa, and, they have all these army ships now. Remember I talked about this on the Dr. Mumbi show, how the U.S. Army was allowed to dock. President Uhuru Kenyatta actually allowed them to create a sea base, basically, in the Indian Ocean. Is that why we saw what happened to Magufuli? Is that why we saw giant cyclone Jobo? Is that why we're seeing what's going on in India? These are the questions we must ask ourselves, beloveds. But, I think if we try and look at their ships and their bombs and their armies, which they've brought into our continent in earnest, then we'll lose the plot and we'll even become discouraged, because we have to know that there is a secret army of our people, of the melanated people, of the global black nation, beloveds. Millions, hundreds of millions, not even millions, hundreds of millions that are praying within their capacity for a new dawn for Africa, for the restoration of Africa. And we're not alone. It's just that our story isn't being told, so you can think you're in isolation. But when the Spirit wakes you up to pray, to send back the darts of the enemy, that is the sign. There is a massive orchestration going on, beloveds. And all I can say is don't worry about, don't get too big picture, but worry about playing your role to the best of your ability, whether it's to awaken our people, whether it's to provide them with information, whether it's to, do chanting beads all day, praying for the liberation of Africa. Whatever, you have something that you can do, whether you're in lockdown, whether you're not in lockdown, whether you're feeling good, whether you're not feeling good. There is something you can do every day for the liberation of our people, because the liberation of our people is spiritual and mental. And we have to tip the scales of what Babylon's mental paradigm has created for ourselves into what we say for ourselves. Because let me tell you, beloveds, the true darts of the enemy that we should be worrying about is the narrative. We've gotten it wrong by focusing too much on the bombs and the guns and the germs and the steel. By the way, that's a very good book, Guns, Germs, and Steel, if you want to understand the perpetual neo-colonial agenda of the Babylon system. But the most dangerous thing is what they have told us about ourselves historically and what they continue to tell us about ourselves. Without shame, they produce slavery movies. Without remorse, they tell us about their colonial history. And some even, some prime ministers will even joke about how they miss the days of old where they were where they were colonial, where the sun never set on the divided kingdom. These are things that they say, and they're perpetually having to prove to ourselves that they are superior with these narratives. And the thing is, we've gotten stuck in these narratives. And I always say, this is not our story, beloveds. Because the story is being told in a wrong way. We're not told of the lions and the lionesses that fought the Babylon system, generation after generation after generation after generation. The mistake they made is they put our minds in the hands of the oppressor through education, etc., and religion. But we're not here to blame anyone. But you see, the darts of the enemy, it's like the whole of the 80s and 90s. They used to call Africa the dark continent. And I'm telling you, dark things happened. And it was like nothing happens here. We're always poor. Then there were famines, great famines in Ethiopia, Sudan, etc., etc. Somalia, beloveds. So many of our lives. Then there was the AIDS epidemic, which was germ warfare. But they had already set the precedent by calling us a dark continent and continuously telling their people how poor we were, how much we needed them there, using the energy of their people to push their agenda, how much we needed their aid when they were actually coming and raping and pillaging our women. The greatest dart of the enemy, beloveds, has been their mental darts. And that's why we have to learn how to return to sender. When they say Africa is going to be hit by, A, B, C, D, we say no. Send that back, send that right back. And in fact, add a bit like times 10, push it times 10. When they say that, black women are the most likely to die from, childbirth, it's because let me not even make excuses for it, but it is because we're doing it in the Babylon way. But beloveds, these are the narratives they want us to pick up on. Black men are constantly killed, are the most endangered species in America. These are the things they go to such an extent to create the narrative. So you must be able to see why the narrative is so important and why the darts of the enemy are the things that they say about us in their media, the way they portray us in their music. Those are the things that weaken the weak among us. Because I told you, there is nowhere that, Al-Kabulan, Africa, Eden, Zion, there's nowhere we're going. But if you aren't on the right side of history, not even history, our story, because history is nonsense. But if you aren't on the right side of your people, beloveds, of your bloodline, you won't have the spiritual covering that you need to pull you through what is already here. It's not even coming, it's here. And so we must learn not to multiply the darts of the enemy. So when they say that, I love what we did, like when they said Cyclone Jobo was going to hit Tanzania, no one picked up that story. In fact, people were shutting that down in their prayer closets. That's the kind of thing we should say. That's the kind of thing we should do. We should make it unacceptable. Like the situation we're seeing with the Zulu Nation right now, where over 7 relatives have died in less than 7 months, beloveds. The king, the queen, the firstborn son, and I'm hearing even the king's sister and another son. We have to speak out. What is really happening? We have to ask those questions. Who is against our nation? Anyone who sent those arrows, go back and destroy the same family that the way they're destroying our royal family, destroy their royal family. These are the vibes, beloveds. These are the levels. The tree even fell it, man. The flowers even fell it. The leaf fell off. Because those are the dots that are mashing us up. Because they're doing a lot of predictive programming right now. Because the world now is more mental than it's ever been. And so many people are awakening and really coming online. So they're no longer puppets. They're no longer robots where they're just following the narrative. The narrative is too low because so many of our people are elevating. So Babylon stories just can't hold weight anymore. The religious psychosis, your spirit is just asking too many questions. So that can't hold you anymore. But we have to realize whenever CNN releases a negative prediction about Africa, we have to shut it down, beloveds. That's how we win this war. Because physically we may appear to be weak, although we're much stronger than it appears, beloveds. But really what we can do right now is send back the darts of the enemy. Any negative story, cancel it. Any negative prediction, don't even entertain it. Don't retweet it unless you're retweeting and canceling it. Don't rush for the likes, beloveds. Don't rush for the real tweets by pushing their agenda, because you are way more powerful than them. And they need you to push this agenda. And they've been telling you, see, and that's why a lot of people feel the pandemic happened because Africa was really rising. I think it was 8 out of 10. I had said 6 before. 8 out of 10 of the fastest growing economies were in Africa. And now we're back in the 90s, beloveds, economically, where a lot of the countries that were growing in leaps and bounds now find themselves back to the oppressor. We're so naive to think that we're playing in a level playing field. We're so naive to think that, beloveds. Until next time. Tuko pamoja.